does it mean really to be the fastest car at a track like the Nürburgring? Does it prove anything other than it's been set up well for a racetrack? Or is it just another metric of performance to be boasted about? For the Audi RS Q8, it may be the most telling metric, however, that a 2.3-ton SUV lapped challenging near 21 km Nordschleife track in just 7 minutes and 42 seconds. That makes it a whole 5 seconds quicker than its more flamboyant and lighter cousin, the Lamborghini Urus, and a mere 10 seconds behind the previous Audi flagship, the R8 V10 Plus Supercar. You may be asking yourself what the point of an SUV like the Audi RS Q8 is. It's big, it's fast, but if you want to go fast, do you necessarily want big? Well, the world seems to be in love with SUVs, and it makes perfect sense. Put one of the best engines that the Volkswagen Group has, that Audi has, the 4-litre biturbo V8, in a beautiful, sexy package. And the RS Q8 is basically the Lamborghini Urus, but in a different skin, in a skin that probably appeals to a lot more people. People who want something fast, practical, and maybe not as flashy. So does the RS Q8 deserve to be the flagship of the Audi range? We're going to find out. For starters, having an achievement like the quickest SUV lap time at the Nürburgring does help its flagship status, and for a petrol head at least, makes it oh so desirable. And it doesn't hurt that the RS Q8 looks the part of a record slayer, squatting low on its massive 23-inch wheels, a first for any Audi ever. It's less conspicuous in Navarro blue than the shouty Java green the RS Q8 debuted in, and that may be both its greatest strength and its greatest weakness against more showy super SUVs. Though it's got plenty of sharp styling touches, from the Matrix LED light show all around to the wide gaping grille and stout haunches and dropping roofline. Touches that are sharp enough to cut yourself on, as I found out while giving it a wipe down on the edge of the very badge announcing itself. There's no missing the wide oval pipe exits either, an Audi RS hallmark with quad exhaust behind them. If nothing else, you have the low frequency grumble from the V8 to help arrest attention, just like a flagship should. It's on a rainy day like today that you truly appreciate a super SUV for its ground clearance and the all-wheel drive. Of course, there's so much power in the RS Q8, it really puts the super in the super SUV, which was in fact a tag that Lamborghini created for the Urus. As you probably know, the Lamborghini Urus and the Audi RS Q8 are very close cousins. They share basically everything under the skin. And that includes the 4-litre biturbo V8. It's a masterpiece of an engine. In the RS Q8, it's got 600 PS and 800 Nm of torque, and all that power is put down through a pretty excellent 8-speed torque converter. The interesting thing is how the RS Q8 puts its power down. With Audi's Quattro all-wheel drive system, it usually sends 40% power up to the front and 60% to the rear, though it can send a maximum of 75% up front and 85% to the rear. Of course, in conditions like this, I'm pretty sure it's 50-50 split all over. No matter what the conditions are though, there's nothing that's going to keep you from pressing down on the throttle pedal and hearing that engine roar. Man, it builds speed quickly. The RS Q8 with its 48-volt mild hybrid architecture and cylinder deactivation also surprises when you're driving it sanely. We got 6.7 kmpl in the city in our test and 9.7 kmpl out on the highway. We can really feel that battery system helping you coast for distances as long as a kilometer or so. What's truly amazing about this engine is in how quickly it builds revs. Now, we've experienced it in previous RS cars, and every time I drive a car with this engine, I just can't believe how quickly it builds revs. In the RS Q8, it's no different, and when you put it in the RS drive mode, you get extra violent shifts that really throw your head back with every shift. It just makes it feel a lot more dramatic. When you want it to be nice and discreet and stealth, RS Q8 can do that for you. Again, the similarities to the Lamborghini Urus don't end in just the powertrain. Like we said, it shares a lot with the Urus under the skin. It's essentially sitting on very similar suspension setups, and that's a great thing for the Audi. That setup includes air suspension at all four corners with active anti-roll bars that slacken or stiffen as the situation demands, likely a huge factor in giving the RS Q8 its pliant ride quality over bad roads, and then its flat cornering prowess in the corners. You're likely to really raise your eyebrows at the way the RS Q8 goes over speed breakers and even glides over potholes. Just given how massive those wheels are, some of the smaller ones don't even register. Of course, given the low profile rubber, I would be wary about sharp-edged potholes and take it easy nonetheless. With the car set in comfort mode, it's actually got a pretty decent pliancy to the way it deals with bad roads. And that should make it a very, very good highway machine. Of course, when you see a set of corners coming up, it's great that you have the RS mode button right on the steering wheel, since dealing with that is a little time consuming and you need to take your eyes off the road. Once you put it in RS mode, you feel the car just tense up, become a little more alert. And then you realize that it's a lot sharper once you get into the corners. And of course, you've got that soundtrack that just turns up the volume. Speaking of the brakes, they're large, they're huge. They're some of the largest discs that Audi's ever fitted to any of their production cars. For the record, they're 440mm up front and 370mm at the rear. And these, of course, are the optional carbon ceramic brakes. And the stopping power is phenomenal. In our tests, we got a sub 40 meter stopping distance in the wet when braking from 100 kmph, which is not something that we see very often and definitely not in an SUV. Come up to a corner at speed and you can really feel the rear wheel steer work. It just tucks in the car magically. You do not expect a car of the RS Q8 size to be that agile. And I remember it's the same feeling of amazement that I had when I drove the Urus for the first time. The only potential downside is the torque converter automatic. Yes, it does have a launch control function when you put it in RS mode. And yes, it is pretty quick and intuitive and reactive most of the time. But it's when you ask for a downshift, it doesn't give it to you as quickly as you might like. And it's especially apparent when you're coming up to a corner, you're on the brakes, and you want to lower gear and you go split-second hesitation. Let me try that again. Split-second hesitation. Of course, it's something that you can drive around, and after a while, honestly, you don't really notice it. It's crazy that you can drive the RS Q8 like maybe drive a hatchback. It truly does just shrink around you. So Audi has also given the RS Q8 a flagship cabin, and it needs to. In line with the rest of the Audi lineup, you have very minimalistic Teutonic interiors with lots of gloss black surfaces, lots of aluminium trim, carbon fiber panels, and a lot of Alcantara. The best part, however, are these RS Sport seats, which aren't just ventilated and heated. They also have a massage function. And the best part is when you brake really heavy, the bolsters actually hold you in place really snugly. So when you're driving fast and you feel the seats gripping you, it just gives you the confidence to push a little further. Another thing that really works in the favor of pushing this car more and more is the fact that the RS has a RS-specific sport display which shows you the temperature of everything from the engine to the sport differential in the back, which helps you keep track of just how hard you're pushing it. My only qualm with these new Audi cabins is, as cool as the two-tier touchscreen setup looks, having the infotainment down here, I know it cleans up the buttons and the clutter. But you do have to take your eyes off the road to use it, and especially annoying is the drive select button. Luckily, the RS mode select button on the steering wheel helps you out by giving you a shortcut to 2 RS modes, where in one of them you can even choose to set off your ESC by default. Like we found when we drove the regular Q8, looks can be completely deceiving. That sloping coupe-like roofline does not affect space in the back of the car at all. In fact, Audi's thrown in a few things to make it just a little more comfortable. Having a reclining backrest with so much knee room and leg room down here makes a huge difference, and well, headroom isn't bad either. Coming back to that practicality we were talking of, the boot is large and square, though we do wish the powered tailgate function extended to closing it from within the car, especially on a rainy day. Ultimately, while it's sad to see supercars from mainstream manufacturers go electric like the R8 is set to, it is heartening to see such capability and genuinely exciting performance come from Audi. The biggest chink in most RS cars' armors have been an artificial feeling steering so far, and the precise steering in the RS Q8 largely fixes that. For the price, the RS Q8 gets you exactly what's expected from a flagship and more. And that's not just from Audi, but from anybody, including more exotic brands.